I call a servant leader that was written in books by Ken Blanchard, John Maxwell, and others. And when I say a servant leader, it's somebody that knows that even though they're in leadership, they're serving others. So often in America, Nigeria, everywhere in the world, people will be like, I'm a big man. I don't need to worry about these people. I don't need to worry about these. The truth is, if you worry about all of these people, you will be a more effective and a more well-rounded leader.
Education is vast. It's about developing yourself, your mind, your everything, your habits. But then when people come here, people just come with the mindset of getting a degree, a certificate. So how can they, what should create the mind shift that is not just about paper, that's more about your holistic development?
Yeah, absolutely, because I find this all the time around the world, even sometimes in the United States. Someone will say, well, I paid my tuition. You paid tuition for an education. You didn't pay tuition for grades. You didn't pay tuition for a diploma or a certificate. I don't care how old you are. Our dear founder, just celebrated his 77th birthday, and he will tell you that he still learns something new every single day. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. You continue to learn. So we have to really change a culture that believes in high-stake tests, a culture that believes that if I've got all these credentials after my name, that means I'm more important than someone else or something. So it's a struggle sometimes. And so we won't build it overnight and we won't change it overnight, but we are going to make a ripple that will affect the rest of the ocean.
The following is a 1-hour conversation with the President of the American University of Nigeria, President Frazier. President Frazier is the 6th president of this institution. He is one person I really admire, and that's why I decided to have him on to discuss his dreams for the school. I share my thoughts and understandings on certain subjects with him. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Having the president of the American University of Nigeria. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Dwayne Frazier. I am the university president, which in this culture sometimes they say vice chancellor. So it's the same position, but I've been working now in higher education for a quarter of a century. I'm feeling so old that I've actually been working in higher ed longer than you've been alive, and I didn't have any gray hair until I started working there, so it's called it all.
Wow, that's impressive. Recently, just on 25th of November, there was Founders Day, and I saw you very excited, and I really enjoyed your speech.
I've dedicated my career to education and service, and to serve as the president of AUN is a dream that combines both of those passions for me. Who would have thought that I'd be standing before you today with the blessing of leading the first development university in all of the African continent? I am so humbled and thankful for this opportunity to be here today, because together we're going to take this American university to heights that no one ever thought we could do, and we're going to literally change this country, this region, and world together.
You talked about your dream for the university, how you applied here 2 times, and this is your 3rd time, and then you got the president, and you talked about how the chairperson, Senator Benobi, has guided you throughout and what you've learned so far. So let's start from the speech. How did you feel giving that speech?
It was an opportunity for me to truly express what I was feeling and giving thanks, because an institution, a university like this, wasn't built overnight. It's the old saying that Rome wasn't built in a day. And a university, to get to the caliber that it is, it's taken a lot of people working really hard. So it gave me a chance to say thank you, sometimes to people that might be considered unsung heroes or whatever you want to say. But the truth is, this institution doesn't exist if it's not for cleaners, for people that drive the cars, all the way up to the students, to the faculty, to the administration, to the board, all of these people. So giving that speech was an opportunity for me really to be grateful and to come forward with a grateful heart, because I am a very thankful person for the blessings I have.
When we talked earlier, you're talking about the cultural differences, the cultural difference between Nigeria and America. So which ones have shocked you the most?
Oh, there's been so many of them, and I love humor, so I don't mind telling you a few of them. The one that most people laugh about most often is when I first got here and people were talking about they were going to ease themselves. So I was like, ease myself? What are these people doing? I thought, because they would leave for like 5-10 minutes and then they would come back. to me, I thought maybe they were going to stretch, or maybe it was something mentally. Maybe they're doing yoga. I had no idea. They just left. But then I discovered one time when a little child said to me she was going to ease herself or she would end up peeing on herself. And I was like, oh, now I got it. They're going to the restroom. So, in America, we never say that, but I'm adapting that phrase. That was a nice one. The other thing, I went to the AUN hotel one time to get some food, and I saw, oh wow, chips and salsa. So America's close to Mexico. When we say chips and salsa, we mean it's like this potato chip, a crisp that you dip, a tortilla chip, and then it's in like a pico de gallo. You eat it. I love chips and salsa. Ordered chips and salsa, and they brought me French fries and ketchup. I was like, that's not exactly what I thought it was. So there's been a lot of fun things, different words, different phrases. People saying A to Z or A to Z. We know it's A to Z, right? So just pronunciations have been fun too. Tomato. I'm like, what's a tomato? Oh, tomato. So it's been a lot of fun. The cultural differences have been interesting because today's actually even Friday. In America, it's called Casual Friday. So we wear blue jeans, we wear a t-shirt many times at work. So for Fridays here in this culture, you wear traditional clothing usually. So that's why today I look like I'm certainly from the Northeast. You wouldn't even know I wasn't Nigerian, right?
Yeah.
Skin doesn't give it away.
I see you a lot with your Kaftans and the native voice. How did you get them? Who made them for you?
So one of them, my very first one that I purchased actually was made by an AUN graduate. He was a law student here a few years back, graduated. His name is Huntley. Huntley owns a company called African Tribe. And African Tribe, his younger sister is a law student, fifth-year law student here now. So Huntley has the company in Abuja and makes beautiful kaftans. And so I actually went and bought a really high-quality one. He actually got me Italian fabrics and everything and put it together. So it was a really nice one, and some governors have wore it, presidents, vice presidents have wore some of his. So I thought if it's good enough for an AUN graduate to make it, then it's good enough for me. But that was the first one. But I also have a tailor here in town that takes really good care of me. And when Americans come, we get t-shirts and others. But for ladies, I do get some made for ladies, like my children, my little girls will have some. And then I've had some other ladies visit. And interesting enough, the person that does that is the lady that works in my house, our cook. She had a dream of being a designer for sewing and being a fashion designer, and I wanted to support that dream. So she taught me what she was doing. I actually got her a sewing machine, and she makes those so beautiful. We've made some for babies where I buy the fabric. She makes it for children in our community and everything. She is wonderful. It's just another example of how if you treat everybody with equal love and care, everybody has something to contribute, and she's just a wonderful person. As well. Her name's Nanlip. She's like my little sister.
Nadalib.
Nanlip. She's from Jos. Nanlep. Nanlip. From Jos.
Oh.
And she makes really good potatoes with anything. Just something to do with Jos, I hear.
And you said the AUN alumni that makes the natives Huntley what?
Mm-hmm. It's called African Tribe.
Yeah, and his name is Huntley.
Huntley. Mm-hmm.
What's the surname?
It's like Antley. Which I'll have to spell it for you. I'm probably pronouncing it a little
Huntley.
Yeah, Huntley's his first name or his given name, and then their family name is like Huntley. So I'm not saying it right, of course, because once again, another little cultural difference is you all pronounce things differently many times. For the word Nercy. For months, we had a little girl that would come to my house that was family. And they would say every time, "Here comes Messi." I thought, Lionel Messi, this is wonderful.
It's
Messi.
Mercy.
Yes, but it's, in American English we say mercy. So it's a harder way of saying it. When I finally saw her name spelled out, I'm like, Mercy, not Messi. Oh, now I get it. It was just the pronunciation. So it's, even one was like Ogape. They kept saying, Ogape. I'm like, okay. And we pronounce it agape. So I was all confused. So I love the pronunciation differences too. It's fun. Keeps me on my toes, man.
Yeah, American English and Nigerian English, it largely differs because like a lot of words that you hear in America, and when you come to Nigeria, you go, huh? Because you're trying to, what are they saying? Meanwhile, the same thing you know. Now, okay, let's get to the next question. When we're talking about, you say the church, and your grandma raised you, and that made you very, very humble and akin to education.
God did not bless me with material things, but he blessed me with a heart for people and compassion to serve others that was instilled in me in an early age because of the love of my grandmother and the support of our local church, the First Baptist Church there in Lebanon Junction.
Yeah, so can you share a specific moment or experience from your upbringing that influenced your dedication to education and service?
Sure. You know, in my upbringing, I talk about it, and I'm very open and transparent because many years ago when I was younger, it embarrassed me. I was embarrassed that I was born poor. And as I thought about it in life and as I grew up and became more mature, you know, we're all a product of our circumstances, and there's conditions that we all have. But it's never about your conditions and about what you have. It's your response to that that will shape you as the young man or the young woman that you are. And so for me, my grandmother only went to grade 2, which was second grade in the United States. And she had to work really hard. Even my grandfather, who passed away years before her, he only went to 4th grade. And I saw how hard all these people had to work. And it really was hurtful because they made so little money and had so little material things. Because I can tell you at the end of the day, being rich will never make you happy. It is all about the way that you see things and the way your heart is.
For some of you, you may know that I do come from a similar background as our founder. Born and raised in one of the poorest parts of the United States, a place called the Appalachian region of Kentucky. Growing up in what was called a trailer with over 12 people in the home at any given time, poverty was a reality that one I knew all too well. But through the love and support of my grandmother, Evelyn Frazier, and the power of our Almighty God, I was able to receive an education and be the first in my family to finish high school, secondary school, and then later my bachelor's, master's, and PhD.
Because I've seen some of the richest people in the world be some of the most unhappy. But I've seen some of the people that had the least materials be some of the happiest people in the world. Because happiness does not come from material possessions. It comes from your faith, your background, your love for others, and how you're able to do that. So from the church, they used to help me financially when I wanted to do a trip for school because we didn't have enough money to do certain field trips. I ended up going to Washington, D.C. As one of the top political science high school students in America. The church helped pay for that. Even when I studied abroad in the international experience, that would be one of the game changers for me to even be sitting here. I went to work in London, England, and worked for the British Parliament. And that church paid for almost 50% of it, the people in the church, to make sure that I was able to go. They paid for my airline ticket and helped do that. So they helped me so much. And even to this day, on Facebook, many of them write me messages how proud they are of me. And you know, as that little kid that grew up in that church, I still, even to this day, feel so much gratefulness whenever one of them writes me how proud they are. And I feel like many times I'm the one that got out of that poverty, and there's still many there that I hope people look up to me as a person that showed them that there is a way out of this. And the way it is through hard work, dedication, and always trying to do what is right. Because when you do things the right way, as I
God
said,
will bless you. You'll see that a number of times, and it can't just leave my head. I don't know, it rings in my head every time. The last interview we had, you said it at the speech. You said,
when you do things the right way, God will bless you. I promise this.
and we can see how the support from the church really helps you. And what's the name of the church? Is it Baptist something?
Sure, First Baptist Church of Lebanon Junction. But just to give you an interesting thing of how God works, and there really are no accidents. So my Sunday school teacher, when I was a very young boy, when I started going to that church, was a missionary in Nigeria. And she started in one of her best friends. She was in Ibadan, and then she went to Jos. And so in Jos, they started a high school. The Baptist high school there that was started with people in connection with my original church, First Baptist Church, is now the Baptist high school in Jos here in Nigeria. So pretty interesting, and I got to go to that Baptist high school in Jos just last month. So how powerful that is to see a place that I'd heard about as a child as well, and to see it coming to fruition with the amazing students that were in there, and some are here at AUN already.
Oh, that's really touching. That's really touching. Yeah, I didn't hear you talk much about your parents. How did your grandmother come into the scene?
Sure. So my mother was 15 when I was born. And especially in rural U.S. culture, that wasn't uncommon that you would have someone in their teenage years. But her father had passed away just a few years earlier, and they did not have a lot of support in that family too. So my mother was 15, my father was 17. My father, just to be frank and honest, because I am American, I'm going to be transparent with you. He had a lot of issues with drugs and other things, and so he spent most of my life in prison. He still is in prison. So when we talk about orphan, they gave me up, could not take care of me, and wasn't involved in my life. So I was raised by the grandmother who wanted to be able to take me because she was always about helping others and do things with children. So my parents, I still occasionally have some conversations, with my mother, but she's more like an aunt. It's not like a mom that, you're going to for advice, because I know this culture and the way you treat moms and the respect for that. My mom passed away, really 7 years ago, and that was my grandmother. So that was my mother to me. So when I talk about it, she was my mother. She did everything for me, took care of me, made sure that I had what I needed. So sometimes when you're poor, you don't even know that you're poor if you're getting the love around you that you have, because it's all you know.
Oh, may your grandma so respectfully. How did you feel after the Founders Day?
No, so I'm more encouraged. I'm even more excited about what the future holds. I listened to the founder's speech closely. I have copies of it. I've read it 5 times now. So only 5, but it'll be 5 more times by the weekend, I'm sure. So he's such an intelligent person, and everything that he says is well crafted because he works diligently. He doesn't just have someone that helps him write a speech and then he delivers it. He reads everything and he says what he means. So I'm using parts of this speech to also help with the strategic plan. So I've met with our SGA people over time. Dean Byron helps me because he meets with SGA. I've got student input. I've got things from congregation where our faculty and staff came together. I've met with individuals. We're going to have a plan, and that plan is going to be a derivative of what the founder's speech was about getting back to the basics, getting back to who we are. We're not going to lose the initial mission and vision of who this school is, because I tell people all the time, AUN is not a collection of buildings. If you think AUN is a collection of buildings sitting in Yola, then you know what? You're at the wrong place, because AUN is a spirit, AUN is a vision, AUN is a mission, and AUN doesn't just exist here. It exists in the hearts of our alums that are teaching, working in schools like Oxford, London, in the United States. They're in Lagos, they're in Abuja, they're in Great Britain, they're in Germany, they're all over the world, and AUN is in the spirit of the faculty, the staff, the students, every one of us. AUN is so much more than buildings. It really is a spirit that cares about people, that wants to help people, and that vision will never die, and we're going to make sure that it's risen up higher than it's ever been.
I like this. Sounds like a sermon.
Sometimes I have to.
Can you recount the defining moments that solidified your commitment to upholding values like excellence, integrity, and service in your leadership?
So, for me, being a parent is probably one of the greatest gifts. It is the greatest gift that God's ever given me in terms of things on this earth. And being able to be a father, I take with great pride because of the lack of that in my life as a child growing up. And statistics show that a father that's active in the life of their children, those children are going to be more successful because there's too many strong women across the world, not just here, but in the United States, raising children by themselves. Alone, like you said. And if you have a father that's also involved in the life and doing things for them, it'll make a difference. So I'll give you the example of watching my children being born, but also on the day that I got to meet my children for the first time, my adopted children.
How many children do you have?
I have 6 children, which is not common for Americans, as you know. I may leave here with 12, 13 children because I just got to go to an orphanage that our honor students are doing. And those kids, oh my gosh, it touches my heart, orphanages so much. But really, that I have 6 children, and so 3, we were in a little village called Kaziba.
K-A-Z-E-B-A.
K-A-Z-I-B-A, Kaziba, located in South Kivu in the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It was really hard to get there. It was like an hour around into the bush to get to this village. And I met my children for the first time. I met two of them, and I was only supposed to adopt two. So I met the two that I was adopting, but I couldn't tell people who I was adopting because they could be kidnapped. People were like, oh, a white person's gonna adopt this child, let's hold them away. And then, so we never told who I was adopting, I just met the children. But it was on that day that I actually met Safari, who is my oldest adopted child. He's developmentally delayed, so a little bit not able to learn exactly like others. And and when I said something about him and was interested, like in what support he has, they said, no, he's broken. Nobody wants him. You can't take something that's broken. And that touched me because we're all broken. We're all broken in some way. But the way God works is it's similar to a Japanese art style. When a pottery falls and it breaks, it goes in pieces. But there's a Japanese art where you take every single piece and you put it back together, but you show the scars. You sew it with the glue and you put it all back together. And it symbolizes that in life, we're all broken in some way. But we have to work hard, and through the grace of God, we'll be put back together. And when we're put back together, we're something new and something more beautiful than we were before we were ever broken. Because the humbleness of life, and one of the most important things, is when you can admit that you're wrong and take steps. The reason I succeed today is because I failed so many times and I've watched others fail. And I've been able to come up as a broken person and come together to become whole, just like that famous Japanese art.
Wow. What's it called in Japan, the act of bringing back together broken pieces? What's it called?
I will remember the name right after this interview. It's like, I'll put it in there because it's Kamuza, or it's a famous art, and we will remember the name. Thanks for pointing out that I forgot the name of it. I'll look it up on Google.
No problem. I'll remind you.
Broken Japanese pottery art.
Broken Japanese pottery art. Okay.
You Google that, it'll give you the name of it.
Okay, I'll check it. So, how have your past experience prepared you to navigate challenges you may encounter as a president?
Sure. My past experiences have been interesting, and this will relate almost to your other question and this one too. So I tell the story frequently about my youngest son. His name is John Moses Mackenzie Frazier, and Mackenzie means love in Swahili. Moses was born in a hospital called Panzi Hospital. He was delivered on that day, that fateful day where his mother passed away, but he was able to be saved by the doctor. The doctor's name is Dr. Dennis Mukwege. Dr. Dennis Mukwege would go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And Dr. Dennis Mukwege, who delivered my son, still works in that hospital every day because of mission, and he cares about the people. It's the largest hospital in terms of volume for women that are victims of violence anywhere in the world. But the story doesn't end there. It was the day that he was delivered in that hospital that the mother passed away, but he was able to save his life. Just so happens to be my birthday. So
Wow.
The way God works,
Wow.
I believe in the world that there aren't accidents. Things happen to us. Hard things happen to good people. Bad things happen to good people. And at times, you've got to look at the bigger picture and look back on life and understand when things happen, there was a destiny. And we all have a destiny on this journey called life. And so for me, on my own leadership experience, I look back on the past and I try to learn from history. I try to learn from past presidents' years, their positives, their failures, because they're humans. We're all humans. And I'm broken, and the truth is, I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to let people down at times. But the truth is, my mission is that I will always try to do what's right. But once again, I'm only a human. And so I hope people give me the grace that I try to give to others as we work really hard to make the school and make the AUN Spirit even a better place. I want our founder to have a big smile on his face when he sees, because he just spends a few moments with our students, which he does. He becomes very happy. We all get happy because, that's the future of Nigeria sitting right on this campus.
When I was in my first year, my first semester, the tutors write an essay how AUN is the place that births the children that develops Africa's future. And I really didn't know what's right. So asking older students, and they told me that they also gave them that in their first semester. AUN 101. The question is how AUN, as a developing university, impacts the future of Africa. When I was writing the essay, I felt like I was just making it look fine. I didn't feel honest writing that.
Yeah, going through the motions, we say.
Yeah, and it was my first semester. So if you should answer that question, how does AUN contribute to Africa's development? How would you answer it?
So in education, we have two ways of studying things. There's something called longitudinal, and that is a very, very important. That essay you wrote in your first semester, it'd be great when you write the same essay in your last semester. Compare those two to show the experience that you had and how your vantage point changed. For example, when I studied abroad, I kept a journal. My first day that I studied, I started writing about it, and then the last day before I left, I wrote about everything too, because it's interesting to see how the journeys, the peaks, the valleys, how everything works. Now, here at this institution, I have no doubt in my mind at all, we are truly preparing the next generation of African leaders, but I'd venture to say even world leaders. As goes Nigeria, as goes the entire continent of Africa. Nigeria is over 200 million people and growing to surpass the United States by the year 2050, even in population, which will make it the second largest democracy in the world, second only to India, that's over 1 billion people. With that number of people, the number of natural resources we have with oil, with the number of people working, the young people at a certain age, we have the largest college age, I believe, anywhere in the world in terms of the young age of people going to university studies. So we have a chance here to create something that's special, to create a culture of entrepreneurship so that they're out there creating jobs for the future, not just going to work for somebody, but we're also building a compassionate style leader, what I call a servant leader that was written in books by Ken Blanchard, John Maxwell, and others. And when I say a servant leader, it's somebody that knows that even though they're in leadership, they're serving others. So often in America, Nigeria, everywhere in the world, people will be like, I'm a big man. I don't need to worry about these people. I don't need to worry about these. The truth is, if you worry about all of these people, you will be a more effective and a more well-rounded leader. And unfortunately, not everybody in the world, not just here, but like I said, US and others, they don't always look at it that way. But what we're doing is training people to care about others, to care about what they're doing, and think about the impact of the jobs they do, the careers. One small example was one of our classes, our computer science students. They came to me and said, I want to tell you about a project we're doing. It's called Janitor Day, and we know you'll like it. And I'm like, well, of course I like that. You're helping support the people that are unsung heroes that are here cleaning every day, get here before the staff does, before our faculty get here, that are here cleaning, helping the resident halls, and they're some of the lowest paid people. And so they raised, I know, over 500,000 naira to help support these people. And for me, when I see the students do that, I feel like a proud dad. I look and I go, that's it. That's what the future of Africa needs. More people with a compassionate heart, because we're sure enough smart here. These students are some of the brightest students I've ever encountered here. But the difference, what makes us more different than any other institution almost in the world, is what we try to infuse in them in the compassion for others. If that compassion comes through, we'll not just change this country, we'll change the world and change this entire continent.
I have nothing to add because I feel you did justice to everything. You did justice to everything, so I have nothing to add there. I go through your social media. I'm a follower, and I think you follow me on Instagram too. And you post lots of beautiful pictures promoting AUN. Why do you post these pictures?
Yeah, I got a laugh one time because someone a little bit older than me, a Nigerian, said to me, wow, you post too much. You're always posting things. Why do you do that? I go, I don't post enough because this generation loves social media. This generation of people love being able to see what's going on. And what I've done in a short period of time is through LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, I have actually personally touched so many Americans, Europeans, people from other countries, Japan and others, that I've had people come up to me and ask how they can partner with us because they're like, we not only love the pictures, we love what you and your students are doing. And it was out of those LinkedIn posts that public broadcasting systems in the United States came forward through one of my connections with LinkedIn. And a friend of mine that I talked to many times, she said, this school is special. This school is different. I want to know more. We had a conversation. She said, I've talked to the PBS publishers, And we want to do a documentary series about AUN that will appear all over the United States. And now, coming in February, they're going to actually do this documentary series, actually partnering with our communication program, so our students will be involved in it too, and they'll have credits on an American television show that will air also here in Nigeria in the future. So social media is a way to connect with people, a way to show people some of the things that sometimes words don't do justice. I love words, I love to read like you do and many others, but sometimes a picture tells 1,000 words. And when you see somebody with the beautiful faces of children here, the beautiful faces of our students, and you see this, it will touch you in a special way. So for me, I don't post enough. I need to keep posting. I need to keep doing that so that people see, because you know what? I don't just play on social media. I have a purpose with what I do. It's praising my family, bragging about my children. It's talking about AUN, which is like my child too. I love that. And it's talking about all of my students here, some of the special things I see with them, because honestly, I take a lot of pride in what they do too. It makes me feel like, you know what? These students represent who the AUN Spirit is, and that's what I want to represent every day too. So it's a beautiful thing. And just a few months ago, I had a chance to actually have dinner, and I had dinner personally and set it all up with some of my heroes that are students here, and they're from Chibok. And the story of the Chibok ladies was something, or the Chibok Girls is a story that I read about in America now over a decade ago. And so the resiliency that these ladies show, the passion, what they're doing, it brings me to tears when I think of the story. And so this year, one of the things I'll be doing as well in that documentary series, they'll do a part about the Chibok ladies 10 years later, because this is where they study. And I'm also doing a book, and in this book that will represent, it'll have our impact stories for the last 20 years of articles in newspapers in one big book that we can give to alums and others to have on their table in their businesses, so people can look through and see the impact people like you have had on these communities and still are having on these communities every day. Because once again, AUN's not a building, it's a spirit, it's a mission, it's a vision.
Yeah. When you went to Africa to go adopt some children, what motivated you to do that? Why did you do that?
So, there's some practical reasons. Let me give you quick the practical reason. What had happened was we had 3 children already at home. And when you have 3 children, you have to make sure that your adoption will fit with the children that are at home too, because that's your first priority. And so we had looked at domestic adoption in the United States, and many of the children that were in the foster care system had been hurt in many ways. They've been abused and other things. And in their dossiers, their reports, their files, it would say these children cannot be with other kids. It would need to be a family that didn't have other children, because it could have issues on the existing children. So that's when I started looking more at international adoption. And then it just so happens that in Eastern Congo, it really became a place of my heart that really touched me, because it's the largest war in the world that nobody ever talks about, especially Western media. Over 6 million people have died in a war that the people there have been mistreated, hurt. There's groups coming in from the Lord's Resistance Army that claim to be Christians from Uganda. There's still the Interahamwe remnants from Rwanda. There's the Burundi rebels. All these groups coming in to control conflict minerals such as cadmium, nickel, tungsten. So they control all this. So the people are hurt. People are mistreated. People are, just to be honest, raped. It is more dangerous to be a woman there than anywhere in the world. You're more likely to be raped than to actually be able to read statistically. That's how devastating it is in that part of the world. And so Eastern Congo, it touched my heart, and I wanted to make a difference. And so I started partnering with a program that was with Food for the Hungry, which does a lot of trying to help with starvation, helping farmers learn how to plant crops and have larger yields. And then a lady was working there that was a nurse that had an orphanage in Kaziba. And I made that connection. So I flew to Rwanda, to Kigali. I flew over to the border, and I walked across the border, and the whole place is controlled by United Nations peacekeepers. And it was a very different world for me to go there. And that's why we ended up going to the Congo, but I really prayed about it. We did, and we wanted to know that we were going to the place that we can make the most impact, and it would be the safest in terms of adoption of new children coming into my family. So that's kind of the roundabout way how we got to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, as most Americans know it as Zaire before it became the DR Congo.
Beyond your professional accomplishments, what personal stories or interactions with students have left a lasting impact on you?
You know, when you think about students and their lives, it's interesting when it was probably like 8 years ago, and I've had some similar stories to this. A young man walked in my office and he sat down. He comes from a very poor family, and he did not have a dad in his life. And he just said to me after I'd been interacting with him, going to all of his American football games, supporting him and things, I sat down with him and we were talking. He said, "I just wanted to say thank you." And I said, "For what?" "For not caring that I'm a football player. Instead, you cared about me as a person, as a young man, and you're always asking me about my grades. You're always asking me how I'm doing. You ask me about things that are different. You don't always ask me about sports. Sports may have gotten me here, but I know that my future lies in an education." And I told him that's absolutely true. And you know, people will come to different situations. We have students that get here from all over. We have students that come from parents that have a little bit more money to parents that have hardly anything. But the truth is, nobody gets here by accident. There's a big purpose and a plan for all of us. And those interactions with students will always shape my life when someone comes to me and says, "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for caring about me. And thank you for seeing through the rough exterior where I didn't want people to know this, or this, but you saw the real me, the real man or the real woman that I am, and you saw the potential." When that happens, you know you're in the right career. And I absolutely love being a part of education, because as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world.
How do you balance the connection you make with students with making strategic decisions for their future and the future of the university?
Sure. One of the more difficult things always is balancing what you have in resources with what you can do and what you can't do. If I had endless money, I would be updating facilities, have more food eateries here. I would do many things. I'd bring many more Americans as well, just so that we have a healthy mix of U.S. professors, Nigerian professors, because I know our students enjoy that. So it's hard sometimes. You have to really balance it. And what I try to be is transparent, but I mean, you can't be the students both. This is exactly where we are financially, this or this or this. But what I want to do is build trust with them. If they know that if I say something that I can't do this right now, they know that it's truly that way. And if you can build up trust and honesty with people, not just students, but anybody, I think they look at you, and then when you tell them something, they know you're being honest and truthful about it. Because what I say is what I mean, and what I do is what I mean, and I want people to see my actions to match that. So with my relationship with students, it's been very helpful trying to know them, going to basketball games, going to football matches, getting to know the students, going to some of their service events, so they know that I truly care about them more than just what's happening inside the classroom, because the education here is a full-rounded education and much different than most places in the world.
It is. You talked about the alumni community earlier. So, how does the prospect of building connections with the alumni community partners, and industry leaders align with your vision for AUN's positive impact on society?
So it goes back to my concept of talking about how AUN is much more than just a little place here in Yola in the buildings. And so what we want to do is build that AUN spirit all across the region. Wherever there's one alum, they could be in Jos, they could be in Sokoto, they can be in Kano, they can be in Port Harcourt, they can be in Calabar, they can be in Lagos, they can be in Abadan, they can be in Maiduguri, they can be anywhere. And that AUN spirit will live there. And so what I want to do is find companies that want to partner in their corporate responsibility with the vision of this institution, which is to build the next generation of compassionate entrepreneur and leaders here that will make a difference not only in Nigeria, but in our continent and our world. And so what I'm going to do is partner with alums to help me find businesses and identify businesses that would like to partner so that we can do things like more scholarships for underprivileged, that we can have more things here to be able to touch people, help with our children, our street children, to help with our IDPs in the camps. So what I want to do is utilize, employ people that are like-minded, like our alums, but also these businesses, so that we can have synergy to be able to make a true impacting difference. Because money doesn't make who you are, but it does give more opportunities, and it gives you the resources that you can take your mission further.
During the Founders Day, in the speech, you talked about AUN creates a Renaissance human. And you give an example of the saxophonist, this engineering student who was playing the saxophone. So, when we do subjects like ENC, that's entrepreneurship and business, and all those subjects here, can you elaborate on the significance of those students being required to take their courses and its impact on their education and future career?
One of the things that does, truly give a uniqueness to this institution, I've heard it from many people, is the concept of learning what it means to be an entrepreneur. The truth is, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll never be unemployed, because what will happen is you'll constantly find ways to create income. You'll constantly look at things a different way. You'll be creative. And one of the things about entrepreneurs, because I'm an entrepreneur and I consider myself an academic entrepreneur, every place I've worked in my career, I've increased revenues for the institutions by creating new programs that they might not have had, or actually building efficiencies. So if you can build the efficiencies, look at things the new ways, create things that might not exist. Let's think about, entrepreneurs. Facebook was created by an entrepreneur. Basically, he has no content of his own. It's all content from other people. He just created a platform that allowed people to do that. Look at something like Lyft and Bolt and Uber, and they have no cars, they own no vehicles. All they created was the platform to be able to do that. Airbnb and others. Entrepreneurs have an ability to take things, to find creative ways to not only make income, but to make livelihood and to find ways to connect people even more. So the classes in entrepreneurship are not about creating people to be just business leaders, because that's one thing, but to create them to be entrepreneurs in life, that they're constantly looking and being creative when they see something, to find out ways, not just to make money, but how to make things better and how to make lives for everybody better. So the entrepreneurship is something that we founded the school on.
Okay. What do you see as the school's current biggest challenge?
It's interesting. Every time someone says that to me, they think I'm going to say financial resources. It's up there. But the number one thing that we struggle with is communication. And people might say, well, what do you mean? Even at the senior management level, I've been working with my team. We're working on how we can be better communicators to our middle level managers, how we can be better communicators to our students, how we can be better communicators to other people. And, America doesn't always get it right, but in U.S. institutions, it's something that we try to pride in strategic communication, the way we portray ourselves, but at the same time, how we talk to others and share with them. If people feel like they're a part of the conversation, they'll take joint ownership. But if they feel like people are just holding all the information and not telling others, then they'll feel like, that's the president's job. Let him care about it. But when it's about resources, it's about making the institution better, it's not my job. It's
Everyone's job.
Everyone's job. Recruiting students, it's not my job. It's everyone's job. And so that's what I tell people all the time, is the collectiveness of a team of us together will always be better than the single one of us, the independent one. And I think communication, as I strengthen that in this first year of my career here and get the institution on track for our strategic plan, I think you'll see the institution's resources start to come in even more.
The AUN has a transfer program, and for some time they have the transfer program, they have the exchange program. The exchange program is where students from America and other universities come here, and our students go there. But then there's been a really low turnout in terms of people that are coming from outside in here, and people that from here want to go there. So how do you tend to bridge this gap, and what do you see like for the collaboration of foreign institutions in our school in terms of the students? How do you tend to?
So this is an area, especially since the insurgents, we've really struggled with.
Islamist militants on the move in northeast Nigeria. It's rare footage of the group Boko Haram. The insurgents filmed this themselves. The target, the main military barracks in Maiduguri.
And the reason why is for the British government and the US government, even Adama was, sitting here in Yola, is on a travel warning list. And so I've been speaking to the US Embassy, the Deputy Chief of Mission, and speaking to people how we can get us off that list. And it's difficult because it takes time to be able to do that. And when you're on a list that has a travel warning, because here's the truth, I feel no more, I don't feel unsafe here. I feel more unsafe in Chicago, downtown Chicago, and downtown New York than I even feel remotely here. But at the same time, I understand that there's a perspective because of media, and it's not just Western media. I kind of thought it was more Western media, but I've watched it different times. Even Nigerian media will point stuff out and just tell a story without telling the good stories of things that happen right here in Yola and Jamaica. They'll talk about something difficult that happened or some challenge. So for us to grow the program, we have to continue to show that we have a safe area, a safe campus. I've got to go and do one-on-one meetings with some of these presidents of universities, which I'll start in January when I'm home for the Christmas break. I'm getting to go meet a bunch of college presidents at a conference, and I'm going to talk with them about the partnership because it can't be one way. If I only send students there, they're not going to want to do that because then they're not, even if it's short-term exchange where they send groups for short terms, because Americans notoriously don't study abroad at the large number as other countries do. So my goal on this is to build some more one-on-one relationships with these college presidents because I can email them and I could be months later sometimes if they don't really want to do it, they don't want to tell me no, but they won't answer my question fully. So I'm working on that right now. It is a priority to get it squared up because what will happen in the spring is we'll have some partners, at least one or two, that will accept our students so they can go in August for this exchange. And then I'm going to try to start out with some short-term programs. Like University of Northern Iowa is already talking with us and bringing nurses from there that are students studying nurse to actually come for short-term visits to work with us. So it'll start with something small, but we have to build that foundation. And when you see more Americans that have been here on these type of programs, you'll get more that want to come, and then vice versa. As we start sending our students in larger numbers, you'll start seeing more opportunities arise.
When you leave Nigeria in most schools, in most Western schools, you see some students, instructors. Here, we don't really have that as students being faculty. Do you have any plan for that? Sometimes students here being like the final year students teaching the first year students on courses.
Right. Well, I think there's a thin line between that. When you go to large American universities, which are state-ran, like the University of Alabama, University of Kentucky, University of Tennessee, University, Ohio State University. When you go to those universities, they have a class that's 300 and 400 students. So what they'll end up having is teaching assistants that are graduate students, sometimes working on their PhD or others. And those teaching assistants will help in those 100-level class, give some of the lectures. They're called TAs, teaching assistants. That's not the concept at a liberal arts institution like us. What it tends to be here is you get the professors teach the courses, but as classes get larger, what you do is you have graduate students that are graduate assistants help do study groups. You help them do tutoring groups. You help them do things like that to help with projects. That I'm 100% in favor of, where you get older students that are in our graduate programs that are graduate assistants that come here. Some might be American in the future as well, coming to do their graduate degree and then helping in some of these courses. But I don't envision us having a lot of teaching assistants teaching courses because that tends to be these really large institutions that have 50 and 60,000 students. I see us supplementing what we do with maybe graduate assistants and graduates, but I like the relationship that our faculty have traditionally with our students, and I want to keep that.
What actions do you believe you contribute to building a lasting legacy for both yourself and the university?
Sure. In this next 3 to 5 years, as we put the strategic plan together and we get it finalized by our board of trustees and our governing council, what I want to do is I want to see this institution be more financially stable. I want to see the institution really come back to the basics of being a true American liberal arts institution. We have it, but we can always do it better. And if we can continue to strengthen our general education, we continue to strengthen the way that we teach in classes with continuous assessments, that projects that we do, that presentations we do, things that we do for the students that prepare them for the real world. our career placement, our internships, helping alums for their life of job opportunities, always keeping them connected here. When I walk away someday from this institution in 5, 10 years, whatever it is, I want to say, when people look back and say, you know what? He didn't do everything perfect, but boy, he cared about this institution and he tried to do the things the right way. Because when we do things the right way, as you know, God
Yeah. Okay. In a rapidly changing world like that's like what we're experiencing now, how do you plan to ensure that AUN remains at the forefront of educational innovation, even with things like generative AI and ChatGPT? Because this has been, I don't know, but I just feel like this is going to disrupt education massively. That you can put in any question that you have from your instructors, your assignments, your tests, and you get the answers immediately. How can AUN still remain at the forefront with all this?
So with rising technologies and other things, what I tell people all the time that they really need to understand is that when you're just trying to use AI to give you all your answers, you're not cheating the teachers, you're cheating yourself. Because you're not always going to be able to have something like this and when someone's talking to you face to face. Like right now we're speaking. If you used AI to do everything in all your papers, you wouldn't even be able to communicate with someone educatedly on certain subjects. You've got to be a well-rounded human and be able to think quickly. AI is wonderful for content and certain things, but it's never can replace the critical thinking skills, the decision-making skills that we have as humans. And the truth is, when we try to use that to do these things, all we're doing is cheating ourselves. I said it one time and I'll say it again, that education is one of the few things in the world that we're willing to pay for and not receive. So many people in the world would rather cheat. They would rather get answers from this or that instead of getting that education for themselves. You're just cheating yourself, the money you're getting. You're not going to give money for a car and never drive the car. You're not going to give someone money and say, I'm getting a KK ride, but I don't want it really. I just want to pay you for it. Don't give me the food, but I'm going to pay you for it. So let's not pay people for education and not receive it. You're hurting yourself because AI can't prepare you for the future. What can prepare you for the future is learning how to think, how to analyze, how to be an entrepreneur, and critically think. So at this institution, there's mechanisms, structural mechanisms to stop people from cheating, and we'll employ those too. But most importantly, it has to be about who we are and the ethics of who we are. If we just use that to do everything, we're not going to make the world a better place, and we're not creating the AUN that we need, and we all have collectively agreed that we're going to come and build.
Yeah, but when people are coming here, education is vast. It's about developing yourself, your mind, your everything, your habits. But then when people are coming here, people just come with the mindset of getting a degree, a certificate. So how can what should create the mind shift that it's not just about the paper, that it's more about your holistic development?
Yeah, absolutely, because I find this all the time around the world, even sometimes in the United States. Someone will say, well, I paid my tuition. You paid tuition for an education. You didn't pay tuition for grades. You didn't pay tuition for a diploma or a certificate. And that's a big difference because people think of themselves as a customer. Students aren't customers. They're more similar to like clients or something. They're not customers because they're not always right. And also, we're not giving them the product and saying, here you go, here's your product you paid for education, not grades. And I tell people all the time, the grades, or marks, as we say sometimes here as well, is important for you to understand that it's hard to change a culture anywhere in the world that says, oh, we're going to take one big test like JAM or WIAC. We're going to take this one big test and that's going to be the judge of who we are academically and everything. And so then that becomes, oh, this diploma is all that matters. No, it's a process. You have to help people understand that it's a process, a procedure, that it's a journey. The day you stop learning is the day that you die. Because you should learn every single day. I don't care how old you are. Our dear founder, just celebrated his 77th birthday, and he will tell you that he still learns something new every single day. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, you continue to learn. So we have to really change a culture that believes in high-stake tests, a culture that believes that if I've got all these credentials after my name, that means I'm more important than someone else or something. So it's a struggle sometimes. And so we won't build it overnight and we won't change it overnight, but we are going to make a ripple that will affect the rest of the ocean.
Thank you. I think we've touched a lot of stuff. Is there anything that you feel that I've not asked that you like to talk about?
I would just like to say again that I really, really enjoy talking to students. I know that I have so many meetings. I have a board that I work with. I have so many things, but I always smile because I'll have people say to me, "You're too accessible to students. You talk to students all the time. You do this or that." I've had people actually say that to me, and I laugh and I said, "You know what? The day that I don't make time to meet students and get to talk to them is the day that I leave, because I'm not here for any one group more than I'm here for students. Because I know that the students are the ones that are going to make or break this institution for the future. They're the greatest recruiters that we could possibly have when they tell their friends, their relatives about it. I've heard people study at institutions for years and never meet their vice chancellors. I've heard them be at places and not even know the name or what he or she looks like. I would venture to say that most of the students know what I look like. Here, it's hard to be this cute. I know, don't laugh. But no, I'm teasing. But I talk to everybody and they laugh, and so I love that, just having a relationship. I can't always meet constantly with students every moment because I have big tasks I'm doing. And my vice presidents, I've told them to have an open door for students too. But for me, that relationship that I have with the young people that are here is going to keep me young forever.
Thank you very, very much, sir, for doing this with me. And I hope we get to have future conversations and more updates as we go along. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
To end this, I'll leave us with this quote by Marcus Aurelius, and I have to read this verbatim. This quote has really stuck with me in various things I do, and has made me to go out there and do things. This is by Marcus Aurelius. Or is it your reputation that's bothering you? But look at how soon we are all forgotten. The abyss of endless time that swallows it all. The emptiness of those applauding hands. The people who praise us, how capricious they are, how arbitrary. And the tiny region it takes place. The whole earth, a pointed space, and most of it uninhabited. Thank you for listening.